Well, Nick, kind of how do you come out of that game? You guys played so well for so long. I know you wanted to get one of those stops there at the end. Does that stick with you a little bit longer?
Yeah, you got to look at it critically on how can we finish that game and come away with a win. Execution and coaching, that's what you got to look at it critically, and we would look at it that way even if we would have found a way to get the win. But that's definitely one thing we look at it and say we should have done this better, on those last 3 drives.
Did they do anything different in attacking or anything in those final 3 drives than they had done earlier?
No, not necessarily. They were definitely getting to the pass game was working for them at that point. They started to hit some explosives, but they're finding ways to, hit the right concepts versus the right coverage at the right time, and they executed. So, hats off to them. They did a good job there at the end of, finding a way, but it wasn't necessarily that they drastically changed.
Yeah, it seemed like Darnold was making some big-time throws at the end. Was there something, though, on your own side that you felt like you guys weren't doing well enough, or was it more just tip the cap to him?
No, a combination of both. I mean, that it's going to take good quarterback play and good play from them to be able to do what they did in those last drives. He played really well. But it's not one thing in particular, if that makes sense. When we kind of looked at it, we looked at those 3 drives as a unit, and a combination of could have had some better play calls in certain spots. Some of the stuff I wouldn't necessarily say I wish I would have called it different, but it just happened to be a good concept of what we had up, what they had up against us. And then there's execution things that are kind of every spot, in the run game, pass rush, coverage, you name it. So it wasn't like an overarching theme of we completely, struggled to execute this particular part of our plan. It's a combination of things.
Is that the best you've seen your defense perform on 3rd down all season?
I don't want to try to make a comparison, but it was a good 3rd down day. The players executed well. It was, not a super dense plan, but there's a lot of details to it, and they did a good job.
It seems like on 3rd downs, opposing offenses haven't been able to get a feel for whether you're going to bring pressure, rush for, and drop. Have you felt like you've done a good job of being kind of unpredictable on 3rd downs?
On 3rd downs, that's a week-to-week thing on what we feel is best, and then the importance of really making sure that you look at the self-scout week to week and what you really showed, because sometimes you might have a plan in your head that you were going to change it up and present something different, and you came away from that game being drastic in in one area, whether that's 4-man rush or maybe it's a simulated rush or you're pressuring a lot. But in your head, you practice it all week, and it was on the menu, and you got to remember, like, what did I actually show in terms of knowing that you're going to change up. But ultimately, you're looking at each week and saying what's best to win the game.
We're talking about the pass rush. A lot of times it's, your outside linebackers, D linemen, but in terms of bringing the blitz and the skill sets you have from players like a JT, a Buddha, a Mac, what do they bring to the pass rush? Because that seems to be like you guys have been generating a little bit more of that in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, they're good blitzers. I think it's as simple as that. Mac's really unique because, to me, there's a different skill set of blitzing and rushing, and he can do both. That kind of his versatility there, whether he's coming off the edge or coming from a stack position. But, yeah, I think we have really good blitzing DBs. I think Buddha is exceptional at bending and making plays. One of those sacks, he helped flush that quarterback to LJ, and LJ finished it. And then, the linebackers, they're heavy-handed, as I would say, in the run game, and when you blitz them, they bring it downhill, Kaiser and Mac. So, a lot of different players that have the skill set to do it. You just got to structure it the right way week to week.
With Mac, how do you evaluate him in coverage? I know it hasn't happened much, but when it has, what do you think?
Yeah, he's doing a really good job in coverage. His skill set is versatile. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he could play stacked backer the whole game, or he could play on the edge the whole game. So he does a good job in coverage.
Darius was hard on himself after the game, feeling like he hadn't really made an impact. When you went back and looked at what he did, were you was it similar? Did you feel like he didn't do much, or were you surprised? Like, how did you kind of?
There's good and bad. I mean, this was his first NFL game, so it wasn't going to be perfect. I knew that. He's hard on himself because he wants to be great. He probably is too hard on himself. I think there's some really good stuff, and then some stuff we got cleaned up.
Is that good, though, in a way that he's hard on himself?
Absolutely.
Because you know how he's going to work to get better.
Absolutely. We just got to make sure that we channel that it's actually truly maximizing, and you learn from it, and it's a performance-based mindset. So I'm not going to linger on those mistakes and make them affect me negatively. I'm going to use that to correct it and then move on and clear my head and make it so that my performance is going forward. I've learned from it. I'm not stressed out about it.
What did you know about Mac's versatility when you first started working with him?
Mac, you said? Well, he had shown that, with previous years in New England, being able to rush off the edge. And then, when you never really know until you see it in person. And then, once we got to start to see it live, it was pretty clear that well, number one, he's a very violent dude. He wants to stick his face in there. So, going up against tackles on the edge, doing this or rushing speed to power, but then also being able to play in the box, play off ball. Obviously, that's what he's got the most tape of. So he had a really good feel of what he could do there. But anytime you can get, hands-on and in person, and then it kind of verifies, oh, yep, this is what we thought.
What were your takeaways on Sean's performance on Sunday?
Yeah, it was a good performance. A couple of things that needs to clean up, but I thought all those corners played pretty well.
The few games that he's played, how much of an impact has Baron Browning made on this defense?
Yeah, he's definitely gone out there and helped us, play good defense. Things we got to keep improving on, whether that's, his comfort. It's only been a couple games in the system, or even just some technique things, that might be a little bit different here than what he's done in the past. It takes time. So excited to continue to work with him because he's going to help us win games.
Both Drew and Jeff said that even though you just played Seattle, obviously, 2 weeks ago, that it's back to ground zero when you start preparing for this next game.
Yeah.
That's the way you approach it also?
Yeah, absolutely. Where you have a jump start is knowing the opponent, right? So what you spend so much time on early in the week of just figuring out who they are before you figure out how you want to approach it, you have a pretty good idea. You can take the last game into figuring out, obviously, how did they see us and how do they want to attack us. But then from there, to me, you're trying to figure out how to win this game. And I think it honestly is best for your creative thought to start from ground zero and not try to remember why you were doing what you were doing per se from the previous time you played them and go off that. I think it's good to just treat this like a new game and how do we have to win this game right here, taking in all that information of, even though we played them 2 weeks ago, we maybe played them, back, week one. I'm not saying that's what Seattle, but if you were playing a team you played back week one, you would take in all that information and devise a plan from there.
So early in the week, because you don't have to spend as much time going back and rewatching all of their game tape, where do you allocate that time towards, or do you just take a little bit of a breather?
No, I just keep working at a pace that I feel like is necessary. Every week can look different depending on how the week goes. Like there might be an area that you feel like they're really difficult to defend, and it might take you a little bit longer that week, or some areas you feel like goes fast. So you just stick to your normal timetable. And if at the end of the week you're ahead, great. If you're not, so be it. Like you just got to figure out whatever's best is what you got to do.
What did you learn about either Seattle's offense or how your defense went up against them just 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we got to improve some areas, both schematically and our technique. We got to tackle. We knew that back is a really good player. A lot of good skill players on that offense. Gino, slippery in the pocket, really good. Delivering passes on time, off schedule. So we knew that was a really good offense going into that game, and players that if you don't play your best, they can beat you. So we got to obviously go into this game and be able to defend those same things.
These last two games kind of totally illustrate how humbling a league this can be. I mean, 5 sacks in both games, good run defense, and yet when it's over, it's still a loss.
100%. It's tough, isn't it? You wake up Monday morning very angry sometimes, just because of couple plays that went here versus there and changed the outcome of the game. But it also that right there to me it makes you resilient. It makes you grow as a person, as a man, to be able to bounce back. You put so much in. Coaches, staff, players. You put so much in to win one game, and it doesn't go your way. Do you have the resiliency to come back around right away on Monday and keep going at it with the same process and stick to that process? And to me, the good teams can do that. They'll stick to their process, no matter how gut-wrenching of a result that it was that you got on Sunday, good or bad, right? You could be riding a great win. You got to come in on Monday ready to work the same way and go about that process the same way. So to me, that's what a resilient individual and a resilient team looks like.
Being at home now, and Seattle's O-line has to go into the silent count. Just in general, how much of an opportunity can that present for a defensive lineman? And is there an opportunity there for a little bit of an advantage to get maybe a half step?
Yeah, I mean, I think, people have ways that they can, double cadence their silent count, and you ultimately have to be honest and read your key when you're getting off the rock, I think loud noise can make it difficult for the communication piece of an offense, especially if that play clock starts to tick down. Now you can use it as a competitive advantage a little bit more, anticipating the snap, but, teams do a really good job of having double cadence through silent count as well.